What about the other? Can you hit a child?
I'm from the South. I understand boomers' rage and anger, but I think, listen, we have to accept we were born in, he's a white guy, I'm a black guy. I don't know where he's from. I'm from the South. Whipping is, we do that all the time. Every black parent in the South is gonna be in jail under those circumstances. I think we have to be careful letting people they dictate how they, treat their
Chuck,
children.
doesn't matter where you're from. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Doesn't matter where you're from.
I don't believe that because, listen, we spank kids in the South. I think the question about did Adrian Peterson go overboard? But listen, Jim, we all grow up in different environments. Listen, every black parent in my neighborhood in the South would be in trouble or in jail under those circumstances.
Listen, my thing is, I don't want to tell anybody how to raise their kids, and I really don't want anybody telling me how to raise my kids. But let's make a distinction between child rearing and child abuse.
And that's
that was child abuse. There's no fine line here.
I think there's a fine line. Jim, I've had many welts on my legs in last
welts like that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've got beat with switches. And I hate to use, first of all, I don't even like the term. When the media talks about it and somebody just said something on television, beating a child. Listen, we don't.
But that's what that was, though, Chuck. I mean, you saw the picture.
Well, we call it spanking, or we call it spanking or whipping our kids.
If I see open wounds and bruises throughout a body, that is a beating.
Sure, I think those pictures are disturbing. Maybe I think Adrian said he went overboard. But as far as being from the South, we all spanked our kids. I got spanked, me and my two brothers.
But then, Chuck, not now, right? I mean, that 1964 is one thing, 2014 is another.
And that's fair.
Maybe we need to rethink this thing.
And I totally agree with that. Maybe we need to rethink it. But I think we have to really be careful trying to teach other parents how to discipline them.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and I am a single mom of 2 girls. They walk all over me because I don't have someone else backing me up. I spank both of my girls. There is no pulling down of pants. It's just one fell swat. But I don't know if it helps.
You are in timeout.
I don't have any control anymore. They will kick and scream. Drawing on the wall, drawing on themselves. Hit the walls and say, I hate you. And after a period of time, that tends to wear me down. My 2-year-old has meltdowns. In public, I've been asked by store managers if she is physically hurt because her screaming is so excessive.
You need to be quiet.
Dr. Phil, is it okay to spank? And if so, what is the right way?
Adrian Peterson disciplined his 4-year-old son last May with a switch. That discipline, in the words of an assistant district attorney in Montgomery County, Texas, went beyond what would be considered, quote, reasonable. That leaves Peterson facing a felony charge for injuring his child, as well as a review by the NFL under its toughened personal conduct policy. Peterson turned himself in early Saturday morning and posted $15,000 bond. He has returned to Minnesota, but the Vikings decided to deactivate Peterson for the game against the Patriots. Peterson has yet to address the charges, and his first court appearance has not been scheduled. But if it comes to this, a trial would be held next year.
Inspired based on what we saw in those pictures was child abuse. With a belt. I saw my sister get hit with a broomstick. I know relatives that have used a switch on their child from a generational perspective. So when Rusty Hardin, the lawyer, explains that, I know it's true, but it doesn't excuse it because we've evolved as a society. We've learned more. And this generation ain't that generation. And you're supposed to know better. I remember
when you yell at kids and you spank them and you have aggressive behavior with them, you know that as many as 60% of those kids are going to grow up to be aggressive in their relationships with other people, not just as parents, in their relationships with other people. If they get hit at home, they just go out and hit other people. Now, and the research is broad on that. It's somewhere between 30 and 60%, but I mean, you're kind of training them to do that. There's also some pretty impressive research that might shock you and people at home, that kids that have been spanked as a group have an IQ 5 points lower at the age of 5 than kids that don't get spanked.
Here's the question. Would you spank your child? Yes, press 1. No, press 2. Well, Dr. Phil has an opinion, but first let me see what you guys think. Let's see the answer, please. Ooh, wow, I'm surprised.
I kid.
He has a checklist, Ashley. He has a checklist.
Actually, I do have a checklist. Number one, you have to commit yourself to discipline because children learn. And what your goal is, you want the children to be able to predict the consequences of their actions with 100% accuracy. They need to know when I do A, B happens. When I do C, D happens. If they can predict it, then they're choosing their own consequences. And so they begin to self-discipline. And the goal of every discipline is it ultimately is internalized. You need to be realistic in your expectations. You don't send a 2-year-old to go clean up the room and dust the furniture. And then, this is the key. You've got to define your child's currency. There is something they value. Maybe it's watching a video or a stuffed toy or whatever, and they need to understand that that currency is dependent upon their performance and use child-level logic. I got spanked